right. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Miami Children's Museum's Quarterly Conversations. Today's theme is Say Yes to the Mess, the power of messy play, and how powerful messy play can actually be. So my name is Brianna Obst. I am the Associate Director of Theater, Education, and Arts at Miami Children's Museum. My pronouns are she and her, and I welcome you all and thank you for being with us today. Yes, we are hailing from Miami. I will mention, hopefully we all have okay internet and power. We are experiencing the outskirts of a hurricane, but our panelists and staff are safe and still very excited to bring you this program today. You will know a couple of accommodations that you will be seeing right now. We do have captions at the bottom of the screen, and we have ASL interpreter that will be spotlit the entire time. So if you need any of those accommodations, they are there for you. Feel free to reach out if something is not working for you in the chat, so we can make sure you are getting the services that you need. Now, without further ado, we are going to jump straight into talking about messy things. And so I would really love to introduce to you all of our panelists. So first up, let me spotlight them for you. We have two ladies from Miami. There we go. Gisela Jorge and Jessica Alfonso are licensed occupational therapists and the owner of Inside Out Kids, a therapy clinic focused on child-led, the inside and the outside of children here in Miami. We also have with us today, there we go, Jessie Guest, a clinical assistant professor at the University of South Carolina. She had received her PhD there in counselor education and supervision. Jessie is the coordinator of the graduate certificate in play therapy and a licensed clinical mental health counselor supervisor and registered play therapist supervisor. Thank you, Jessie, for joining us. And last but definitely not least, we have Dee Ray, PhD, licensed professional counselor, supervisor, and registered play therapist supervisor. She is a Regents professor and co-director of the Center for Play Therapy at the University of North Texas. So a couple of people coming from around the country. Thank you very much for joining us today, panelists. All right, so the first question is, and I open it up to any of our panelists, is to help us define what this child-led, free play, open play, all the fun words of play, what is it? Can we define it for our people here today? If anyone wants to kick us off. Go for it, Jessica.
So child-led therapy, as the terms imply, is very based on what the child does. So we do kind of make it in a secure, very safe environment, and we'll have toys spread out or things, but as the child searches and grabs what he wants, then we do our goals and our play based on that. So if they want to, let's say I have like a pig toy or a dragon toy and they go to the pig one, I won't prevent it. I will follow their lead, but of course work in there and have fun with them while we work on our goals. So it is child-led in the sense that, you know, we give them that sort of freedom, but there's always that boundary where we make sure there's safety. We also make sure they don't like break out of it too much, but it is very fun and they kind of get to lead it and they feel like they have that, you know, choice and that freedom.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. So does anyone else want to add to that? Yes, Jessie.
Sure. Yeah, I think very similarly, kind of in the mental health field too. If we think about the difference between structured play and then unstructured play, so it's not that there isn't any type of structure, but free play is just allowing the child to lead. So instead of saying, hey, we're going to do this activity, or we're going to go to soccer or learn these skills necessarily where it is play, Free play is allowing the child to lead, very similar to what Jessica was mentioning. They get to utilize the toys in almost any way that they want to use them, as long as it's safe. And they get to use their creativity. We're just kind of along for the ride and creating that space for them to be able to be in control and just use their minds and hands and explore the world in the way that they see fit.
And what can you see in a child from watching them or playing with them in this child-led way? You know, Jessica, I know you mentioned goals. What are you seeing happen as opposed to structured play? Jessica.
So a lot of times what I see in child-led or free play is you kind of get to see their mind, their exploration, how they think, how they're problem solving. You know, let's say the pig toy, they may not just use it as the toy where you put the coin inside. They may get creative and be like, oh, I'm going to go oink, oink, oink and play a farm. So you get to see like that imagination side, the creativity.
Mm-hmm. Gisela.
Yeah, so bouncing off of what Jess said, you kind of see where they're at, you see what they're capable of doing. On top of that, you kind of also see what they understand about the world. For example, I'll throw in my niece. Her pretend play right now is centered around making you dinner, making you coffee. So right there, you kind of understand, okay, so she's probably been watching my sister make dinner, make coffee, so she understands this is something that happens in the kitchen. She usually plays this game in the kitchen. She understands this is something you serve someone because then she gets a plate and then she gives it to you. So all that, you kind of know what she knows about the world and what she's understanding about society and social concepts by just following her lead and seeing what she's coming up with in her mind.
Now, I was just going to add that, so I think that, you know, when you allow children to have spontaneous play, like, which is where they're choosing what they want based on, you know, kind of where they're going to go with it, you see all those things that everyone's talking about, and you really get a sense of how they view the world. So not just like what is happening for them in the world, but how do they view it? How are they taking it in? You know, what you know, when they like we call it therapeutic play, when they start kind of working in their play to solve problems, not just, you know, kind of basic academic kind of problems, that happens too, but to solve like social issues, to solve relational issues, that they'll use their play, and we have to trust. That's the thing about child-led, is that it involves the adult trusting that the child is going to go where they need to go, and work on the things that they need to work on, that we can trust them to do that.
Mm-hmm. And so to messy play, the theme of our conversation today, right? What is messy play? And more importantly, a lot of people have asked, what are the benefits of it? And should we be scared of it? So many questions, sorry. But what is messy play? What are the benefits? And should we, as educators, parents, museum staff, should we be scared of it? Jessica, go for it.
So messy play is very broad. Honestly, it can mean a lot of things, but in general, it's anything, any medium that you think is very messy. You know, paint, it could be shaving cream, it can be even like markers if you think the kid is going to paint on themselves. But the beauty of messy play is that it actually lets them explore in a variety of ways. So you can see it from a sensory point of view, where if you already introduce all of these different textures, these different factors to your child at a young age, they may have an easier time processing them, or you will realize if they have a hard time processing them, and then you can work on them. It also helps them problem solve, and you know, you kind of get to see what they're going to do. Oh my God, my little 8-month-old baby just touched shaving cream. How will she react? Will she freak out? Is she going to play with it? And is it needed? I think it's a great, fun way for kids to learn. If you have a child that doesn't like writing, you can have them write in shaving cream. So you're working on, you know, that fine motor aspect, but also the sensory, the tactile. It honestly is great. And it helps them realize that being touched by these textures and these things is not the end of the world or the worst. It could be cleaned off. So that way you don't have those kids that they freak out the minute anything dirty touches them. It really is a great way for them to explore the world around them. in a fun way.
Mhm. Great. Somebody else want to add to that? Yeah, Jesse.
Sure, I'll just add a little bit. I think that was a great definition and a great examples of how messy play is helpful. To me, I think messy play is like the ultimate free play. If you think about kids, they're under so many different demands and ways of being, and learning how to live and act in different environments. So whether it's at school or at home or while we're eating or any of those areas, they're under a lot of bounds, and this is really just very freeing, where they get to be messy. And kids are generally messy beings because they don't think the same way we think, and care as much as we care about certain elements. And if we think about play just in general, it's their developmental appropriateness and their ways that they communicate and they engage and learn about the world. And that includes messy things as water or even soap can be considered messy, but in reality, it's just what the different textures that we have in this world. So I think it's the ultimate free play. It may be difficult for adults because how often do we engage necessarily in messy play, which is probably not high on our to-do list every day.
Mhm.
But how freeing it is to not care if we have something on our hands, or if we're messing with clay or water or sand. And kids are generally enjoy that freeing. So it's important for their development to have that space to not always be so confound to our expectations.
Yeah. And is it essential to childhood development to bring in messy play? Maybe not essential, what are those benefits to a child's development? Dee, I saw you unmute. Yeah, go for it.
I was just going to say there's so many benefits to it in terms of just looking at the brain. So just in general play, when children engage in spontaneous play, there's like a dopamine release. And so there's a happiness, component that goes with it. When they are with other people in relationship in their play, there's oxytocin releases. And so there's these brain benefits to it. And then there's also just the developmental benefits of being able to kinesthetically touch everything and be involved in everything. If you're gonna, I wanted to address the one question you asked of, should we be afraid of it? And I do think, if it's not structured the way that it needs to be structured, then everybody's fearful of what's going to happen, because what we wouldn't want to do is send the message of, oh yeah, your child's going to paint your walls and that's all going to be fine. So the only way to not be fearful is to make sure we have the structure around it so that everybody can enjoy it and get the dopamine release that we're going for on it.
So just a question on that, but Gisela, before I jump to you, because I want to jump on what you said, Dee, is right, structure and open-ended are not opposites, right? We need them. And so I think our interpreters are switching potentially. Let me just make sure that, yes, now I can spotlight both. Excellent. Okay. All right. So sorry, now I'm going to keep adding everybody back in. How do we structure open-ended, child-led, messy play? What are the parameters so that we're not scared of that?
Yeah. But I think just this, I'll just say one thing and I'll be quiet. But the structure around, that's hopefully we can also talk about that a little bit. But the structure around the placement of where you allow this, the materials that you do, making sure there are areas that you're okay with being messy, that it's not, that you don't feel pressure to put them in the middle of your nice room or the room you just painted or whatever it is, but that it's in an area where you can feel comfortable and relaxed about, okay, well, if things get on the floor, it's going to be okay here. And that's the structure that we're talking about. And the more structure you provide around that, around the space, and like your clothes, making sure the clothes are messable, right? Like that once you provide those structures, then you get to relax and the child can lead. So that's what allows the child to lead.
Mm-hmm. Jessica? Yeah.
So following along in that, she's 100% correct. Example, we do a lot of play groups at the Miami Children's Museum, and almost all our activities are messy. So the way we structure it but still allow it to be fun is we actually do it in a confined space, let's say, or a space big enough for the kids, but you kind of know it's going to be there. So we have our tent. But I think one of the main things that has helped us a lot is we do a lot of bins. So a lot of times they keep it in there, and then under the bins we put tarps, like at least 2 or 3. The convenience is we usually buy like the dollar store ones, and let me tell you, it is the best, because then at the end you just roll them all up and throw them away. You don't even have to worry about it. So most of the mess literally stays all on those tarps. You just pick it up, throw it away, and you're done. And then if you don't want to spend that dollar every time, you can just buy, parents can just buy like their own real nice one, like a tarp, and it'll be cute because if it gets painted on, it has like their kids' own flair. It'll have beauty, and then they'll keep reusing it. And it's a nice way to constrain the mess, but you still give them that nice little space to have fun. So that's kind of how we do it, how we contain it.
Sure. Gisela?
I'll also add that well, every once in a while when we do the play groups, we will have that one kiddo who is just so excited about the mess. And you kind of see they're starting to get a little dysregulated, or you see that excitement showing through their body, and they might start pouring whatever it is outside of the bin. When that typically happens, usually we remind them, oh, this is going to stay inside the bin, or our bodies are inside the bin, kind of to like redirect them. I see you're having a great time. I see your body's getting a little bit out of control. Let's try to keep it inside the bin. And if you see your kiddos going a little too, like they're way, way, way excited, I feel like at that point, you kind of have to remind them, look, your body's a little too excited. Let's see if we can calm down a little and then go back into the bin. Because we have had those kiddos that just like to do this a lot, and you kind of have to remind them it stays inside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anybody else on structuring the unstructured? Yeah, Jesse.
I will just add one quick thing, and it reminded me when Dee was mentioning, creating, and all of you were mentioning like how to make this structured and creating different ideas, whether it's the bins or outside or in a safe space. So the only thing is, especially for parents too, pay attention to how you're feeling also. So create a space that really fits you and that you're okay with getting messy. Because if you're not enjoying it and you are tense, your child will pick up on those feelings, and it will not be the same experience for the child. Like, yes, they got to play with, shaving cream for 30 minutes, but all the while they're watching you react or trying to hold back your reactions or looking uncomfortable, and it won't be the same experience for them. So figure out what's best for you. We all have a different, spectrum of okay with mess and okay and not okay with mess, and that's okay too. So don't try to, be any different than what you are, but try to figure out a place or a space that fits the parents' accepted level of mess. So then you can just relax, because your child will enjoy it much more if you are relaxed with them.
So on that, Jesse, sometimes it may be best to go somewhere else for the messy play, like a museum. And so I say this because we do have a lot of museum people who are in the industry on this call, in this discussion. So so some advice for museum educators or programmers. What are some types of activities that offer an easy entry into messy play? Jessica.
So it varies to explain what is considered easy, because as Gisela has mentioned, depending on the child's level of excitement, they can turn anything into like everywhere. But I will admit we have learned over our many play groups that it just depends what's messier and what's not. So obviously water beads is crazy messy. It is, one of the hardest things to pick up, and it rolls everywhere, compared to if you used maybe just thicker black beans. And one activity that we've done a lot is we'll get like, an empty water bottle, and we'll have them pour beans in there, and maybe they want to put flowers and make like a little terrarium. And that one actually hasn't been as messy compared to, let's say, water beads. Another one that has been a little bit more simple is paint, but not paint like the regular kind. We use lately now the ones they use for bingo, like the doppers. So kids still kind of feel that they touch it, they paint with it. So they're still getting the texture, but not as much as the mess of the other play. Water is definitely a messy one. That one is one that we've done many times. It's a great one. When I do it, I definitely vouch for it. Using sponges so that they get that. Not only are they working on the texture, but they're working on, strengthening their hands, which in the future it will help with fine motor coordination and writing. So yes, it is messy. And probably, I will admit, dry textures is what I would go for first. Just not the bigger the better, the texture. The wet ones are definitely harder and messier, but I think they're all so beneficial in their own way. So it just depends what like Jesse was saying, it depends what your level of comfort is, which one you choose. But in the end, they really all benefit children in the future from helping in their fine motor, their tactile, their gross motor. It can help in many ways depending how you use it.
Dee, did I see it? Yeah, I saw your hand. Go for it.
Yeah, I think Jessica's alluding to this is like more than broader than the activity is more what are the materials, right? Like what are the materials that are available? And if we really want messy play that's led by free play, then you really have to think about the materials of it rather than this activity that you're going to try and have them do. And for me, we spend a lot of time here thinking of cheap ways to do these kind of things because it can get expensive.
Yeah, we're all on budgets, right?
Yes. And best ways of cleaning. So we have little tricks of the trade in terms of putting a little bit of dishwashing soap into the paint. It makes it easier to clean. And we only fill things like glue bottles are only filled up, just a little bit, per time that it's available. Same with paints, like so, we really stick with the basics on mess. It's sand, water, paint. Those are the three main messy ones that we use that children really love. And in water, we will often just put it in pitchers, and so there's only so much water. So just making sure, because if you put children in a place where there's endless amount of materials, one or two children will use all of the materials. They'll get, like you were talking about before, about getting carried away a little with it. So we're just careful with those materials about what's available to children, but we try not to use any kind of expensive materials, anything that would cost a lot of money or stress people out about how much children are using of it. And not using things, I think Jessica, you're talking about like water beads, not using glitter, not using things that just like really you can never clean up. So.
Right. Yeah. So a couple of things. I want to go to the question here about shaving cream in the chat. As the question is, I assume shaving cream is safe to get in the mouth, if not pleasant tasting, right? Because there are activities, we've done some at the museum. You guys mentioned the shaving cream. Is it okay to get shaving cream in the mouth when we're working with little ones? Or we just need to read the label? Gisela?
I feel like that is one of the boundaries I do try to set, especially when it comes to like water beads or shaving cream or things that I don't feel safe with a kiddo putting in their mouth, especially if your kiddo is one of those that really have that oral sensory that everything goes straight into the mouth. I would be more careful in what sensory activities or messy play activities you choose, just because some objects are not safe to place in the mouth. For example, water beads, we have certain kiddos sometimes that in our play groups, they start placing them in their mouths. And in that case, it becomes unsafe because I have read that water beads can get stuck in your lower intestines, in the kiddo's intestines. So a good alternative to water beads can be tapioca balls, where that's something that is more edible. So if your kiddo does place a lot of things in their mouths, I would suggest an alternative. There's edible shaving cream you can make. They have recipes online. There's edible Play-Doh. Just searching these alternatives if you know that your kiddo does place a lot of things in their mouths.
Mm-hmm. I like the simplicity, Dee, that you were saying, the three things: sand, water, and paint. But you also mentioned very quickly, so I want to have everybody else chime in, tips, right? Because we had questions about the mess. We had at the museum, I think it was the month of July during summer, we had messy month. So every activity involved mess. And, when we pitch these ideas, our facility team is on high alert because they're the team that has to help clean up. And so also, so for museums, for classrooms, for home, more tips like you just said, like the little dishwashing liquid, is that what you said, in the paint, the putting out small materials. We learned that early on for us as well, like no big things of paint because that'll just get slapped. The smaller, the better. But more inside tips like that, fire them away at us if you have them.
I can give one more. Is
Go for it.
So if you are, so this wouldn't be for parents at home, but for like museums, we do plexiglass on our walls so they're easier to clean when things splatter. So like and it's super cheap just to have a cutout of plexiglass, and we drill it onto the wall, and so then it's just easier to clean. And then of course we never have, we always have tile floors. We go for the cheap tile floors. So I'm trying to, yeah, I'll keep thinking.
Yeah, and the no glitter, glitter
no.
is very much banned in our museum. But yeah, is there anything else, tips to prevent the mess, and then potentially tips to help clean up the mess?
I
Go,
would
Gisela.
say a tip to help clean up is to have your kiddo be a part of the cleanup. Kind of get them excited to clean up with you. Make it a game. Don't make it a task. Make it a part of the messy play, a part of the play to clean up. You'll see that they'll get excited about it as well if you're excited about it. And on top of that, you're helping them build that independence towards cleanup, because cleanup is something you're going to have to do forever until you're older. So it builds that independence to cleaning up for themselves by cleaning up after messy play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did have some questions about the cleanup. And I guess, how do you encourage it? You said making a game. Is that something, often us in the museum setting, it's kind of like they come and go so quickly. Is that something we could have in a museum setting, or, just asking the question?
Yeah, I feel like, well, it depends, because when we've done Sensory Saturday at the museum, at that we have kids like coming in and out. Now, if you know that, let's say it's a certain hour session, and towards the end of the hour, they're the same kids and they've been there for a while. At that point, usually I send out the sound off, like, in a minute, we're going to start cleaning up. The minute passes and then we start cleaning up. You can say bye to all the toys or all the sensory things as you're cleaning up. You dump the water. Usually kiddos love watching water fall when you're dumping the water. So that's a great fun way. If you can get them to start sweeping with you, I feel like when kiddos see, let's say they see you cleaning a lot, they like to be a part of it because they've seen you do it. So you just hand them the Swiffer and see what they do with it. You can basically have them do small things and you do the bigger things, if that helps.
So a question I have, maybe someone who's wanting to try messy play, maybe hasn't done it before, like the setup of a messy activity. Like, let's say it's like we're going to play today, the material is water. What do you do? Like, talk us through, like, logistically, what are some other things we can use to play with the water? How is it set up? Like real kind of basics that maybe like we miss when we're planning activities. Jessica.
So honestly, the first thing you have to think about is where you're going to choose to do it, and then what is in that area. Because then let's say you choose your living room, let's pretend. You have to be willing to understand that is water. So maybe there's the TV in the living room, there's the couch. What are you willing to allow to accidentally possibly get wet? Because water is a kind of medium that you could splash it, and without the child meaning to, water drops can go around. So definitely the first thing we always do when we do our play groups is we think of the area, and then we look what's around it, what we take away, what we don't want to get ruined, or we make sure wherever our mats are, like we said, we're trying to save money. So we get dollar store mats. It's great. And they're colorful. So kids love how it looks because you can decorate with them as well, depending the theme and the holiday. So we put a lot of little mats, and then the bin is always in the middle, just so it's safer that way. And then that's how we kind of see, okay, so the bin is here, mats are here, and everything else, we're okay with it if it accidentally gets a little bit wet or touched. Now, in terms of how you can play with water, there are so many ways, honestly. It's one of my favorite. So you can do from sponges, you can do from just putting simple dish soap, food coloring to change color. You can put a ball in there, you can put little toy cars. A lot of activities that we like to do is we'll get like a board from the dollar store. It's just a simple white board. And then the kids, what they like to do is they'll take like the toy car and then they'll roll it on the board and then they'll put water on it. So it kind of gives it like a different color look because the waters already has food coloring. Like I said, they get the sponge, they squeeze it onto the board and then they play with it. So a lot of these things that I want to point out is, yes, it's helping them explore and learn through their messy play, but as therapists, we also realize how much it helps them with their actual, skills that they need to develop as they, their milestones. The kids are having fun, but they don't realize that squeezing that sponge is helping them with their, intrinsic muscle strength or their grip strength. Just playing with the whiteboard is fine motor, or if you're using a specific grasp, it really is a fun way to help them develop in a fun, like messy way. So the only thing I can say is like, just try to say where you choose it, like where you're going to do it, just make sure you're okay that possibly some things may sprinkle out, and then just try to put it as middle as possible. And then you just, whatever you want to put in there. Kids even like spoons. If you grab a spoon and then they just go like this with the bubbles of the soap, they're entertained, they love it, and they're exploring, they're having fun. You can have a little water bottle, they're going in and out. Honestly, you can add anything. It's really cool how much fun kids can have with anything.
Yeah, Jesse, I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to reiterate, that last part too, is really not to overthink it. The whole part of free play too is to allow them to choose how to play with things. So if you have a water table or a bucket with some water, you could put, a spoon and a cup in there and they will probably have the best time for like 30-40 minutes. So it's just giving them a couple materials and then giving them something with that different texture, that messy, and they will take it where they want it to go. So don't think you have to have this big, elaborate activity. And if you are, depending on the age of the child, but if you're envisioning an activity to go one way, you're probably going to get disappointed because the kids are going to take it their way. So it's almost like less is better. So just provide the couple materials for them and let them have at it. And I think it's a great, recommendation just to be aware of the space that you're in. Are you okay with what's around to get messy or dirty or wet or whatever it might be? But just to enjoy it and not to overthink it.
Gisela.
Bouncing off of what Jessie said, because I love how she mentioned like you have a plan in your head, but almost never does that plan go to plan. So that's why it's so important to follow your child's lead and just see where they're going and kind of let go of that plan. And sometimes I've been surprised where the child takes me to a better game that I had planned, that I had envisioned. I'll give you an example. I had a bucket of water outside for my niece and nephew, and we were supposed to just paint some boards. They ended up wanting to do a car wash. So I followed their lead and we ended up just using water and cars, and we used spray bottles. It was unplanned, but my car ended up getting cleaned. So it was an amazing activity that I got to get out of my niece and nephew by just following their lead.
Great. Dee.
Yeah, I was just going to add on because, I like listening to everybody else talk. But I was just adding about what Jesse was saying about think simply. I think that's the really important piece that having, to me, I was just going to say a little bit more concretely, like lots of different versions of containers, right? Like bigger, smaller containers are something that children, and then you have the more expressive kind of sand or paints or whatever that is, shaving cream, and you'll see kids kind of move in and out of that. So you don't need fancy materials, and you really don't want toys that have like intricate crevices and things like that when you're doing messy play. So natural materials are really helpful. When you have like vehicles that are wooden or animals, plastic animals work, even though that's not natural, but plastic animals, like just really simple kind of things. And children will, once you give them those more expressive kind of materials along with those basic kinds of toys, they will have a ball.
Yeah. paint is often a scary thought, right? So whether it's for home painting, museum painting, classroom painting, we focus there on water. What is a nice kind of friendly, structured, unstructured setup to do a messy free play paint activity? Dee, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I was waiting to see, finger paints. I think we put little containers of finger paints, and that way if they have paper, or even if they can, that's your decision as the adult, but if they can mix the paint with glue or mix the paint with sand, but finger paints often work. If you can't do, I mean, we have easels and that kind of thing for that kind of painting, but if you're doing it, I was just thinking in a museum setup where you have to do a lot of kids, that might be problematic with the mixing, but if you do finger paints and you do them in small containers, then you can change those out pretty quickly, and all children can get to play with those, and it gets all over their hands, and they
Yeah. Anyone else for a paint kind of setup that they
Hi.
found works? Gisela?
Hi.
I was gonna
from
mention
Mount
the one.
Hope
Oh, sorry.
Museum.
We have sorry, let's have Gisela answer, and then Sarah, I will go to you.
Oh, I was just gonna mention, I think Jessica mentioned it last time. There's like dopper paints that are kind of like bingo painting, and those are amazing because usually when you give a kid a paint bottle, what they like to do is squeeze it. So dopper painting, the paint can't squeeze out, and they just like dop it onto the paper, and they can create whatever they want to using the dopper. So far those are the ones we've used, and it's worked out amazingly.
Great. Sarah, in one of our participants. Go for it, Sarah.
Hi. So I'm from Launchpad Children's Museum in Iowa, and we just finished up a paint toddler session. And what we found with paint is that to do different surfaces that you paint on is really engaging for kids. So painting on foil, we flipped the table over, we painted, we took saran wrap around the table legs and painted on that. We've also taped paper underneath desks and had them paint upside down like Michelangelo, with goggles and lab coats, of course. Taking just paper and a white crayon and drawing something on there with the white crayon, and they can do watercolor on there. Just really different types of things that they can paint on that they normally are not able to paint on or don't think about painting on is really good, engaging for the kids, and really opens up that open-ended play a lot for them.
That's great. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it. We've done the painting under the table is really, really fun. And then there's a couple of people there in the chat. Samantha's offered, we love liquid watercolors in spray bottles. We spray sheets of paper or even paper on the walls, which is another idea with paint play. And then a question about rewards from Kaisha. Is it okay to offer rewards for helping clean up, or like something small like a sticker? What's people's theories on I guess rewards or reward systems for helping?
I just wanted to say, because coming from the play therapy world,
Yes.
so we're working in that mental health world, we actually don't ask children to clean up at the end, but I totally understand why you would in other settings. But we're often, I'm just going to give this rationale in case anybody is interested, but we don't ask them to clean up for the reasons of we want them to come in and feel free to do what they need to do. And often children who have more mental health kind of concerns, they are feeling really restricted, and this idea that, oh, I'm going to have to clean up might keep them from doing what they need to do in their free play. So they're able to kind of explore, and then we don't ask them to clean up. So I just wanted to throw in that viewpoint in that. And then as far as rewards, it kind of works against the internal intrinsic motivation of playing. Is if we're offering them rewards to get them to do what we want them to do, it works a little bit against. And again, I understand it's hard to let a child go and then all this cleanup needs to happen. But you know, when we're talking about, oh, we're looking for the intrinsic motivation of play and having children kind of be able to direct their play, if we're giving them rewards for doing certain things, that moves them into our world of, oh, I want you to do this thing for me. And so it's just something to question about balancing kind of what are our goals here.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a great point. Another question is, what about social emotional benefits of messy play? What are there any? What are they? Opening that one up.
Okay, I'll answer.
Yeah, go.
I actually, I think it may have been sent out, but Sarah may have sent it out, but I did send out a handout on the benefits of play. Mostly I sent that out so that people would be able to talk about it in terms of getting parents on board to on play. It's big that. But social emotional, you know, when they do research, 75% of children's play, when they are allowed to free play, is socially, even if they're playing by themselves, is socially adjacent. So in any kind of play, what's happening for children is they're building social skills. In that there, and again, we talked about like, you know, brain release of what happens there. So there's like more of this happiness chemicals that are coming up during their play. So that's a social emotional benefit. And then the expression of what that ability to be free, specifically with messy play, that ability to be free of, oh, wait, I can make anything happen here. And there's not going to be punishment for it. There's not going to be this terrible thing that happens. So if you're talking about like career, like you're building up self-esteem for career, that's a main thing that young children need to believe at the very beginning of, you know, up to 6 and 7 years old, is I can do anything. I can make anything happen, because life is going to teach them later on that that isn't the case, but we want their self-concept to be built up in those beginning years. And that's something that messy play does also.
Wow. So, man, I had a train of thought. Sorry, let's go Jessie and then Gisela. And then I'm going to come back to something that you said, Dee. Jessie.
If you get the train back, you just feel free to.
I'll cut you all off. No, keep going.
Totally fine. Well, and I think Dee's right on everything she said. And I think if you look at the dynamics and the different aspects of social emotional learning, like self-awareness and self-management, when you're in messy play, you know, you can put boundaries in the sense of, you know, Dee and I were talking, or Dee was mentioning not having them clean up, but there can be boundaries still set where, you know, if you choose to play with the water in this way, then you're choosing to maybe not play with water again or next time or something along those lines. So they are learning some self-awareness and some self-management. If they're playing, it sounds like in the museum setting, there could be lots of kids around. So again, they're learning some of those relational skills also, to not throw the paint at the, you know, little one next to me, some social awareness. And then the other aspect of SEL, you know, the responsible decision making. So they're learning all of those things as they're just, you know, filling little cups up with water. They are making active choices to not dump the water on you or dump them on my friend, or, you know, so all of those main SEL dynamics are in play kind of at all times when they're engaging in free play, without us having to say, make sure you don't dump it on Johnny over here. They already know that, and they're, you know, choosing not to do it, or maybe they're choosing to do it, and then there's a consequence for that decision. So I would say SEL is all over messy play and just free play in general.
Great. And just a note, Jessica, our panelist, has to leave. So thank you for joining us, Jessica. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Gisela, did you want to add to that, or can I move on to a question?
Yeah, I was going to mention from a sensory perspective, we do have those kiddos that either get too excited or they don't like touching, or they're avoiding the messy play. And that's a lot of social emotional comes into that. You sometimes see really big adverse reactions, and then you see a lot of emotional reactions, and then just bringing that to light. Oh, I see this texture is making you sad, or I see your body isn't really liking this texture. And it goes the opposite way too. Like I mentioned before, you see the kiddo gets way too excited because of a certain texture. So bringing that awareness to your child, like, oh, I see this texture is making you feel this way. So there, from the sensory perspective, we do see a lot of social emotional processing happening when they're playing with messy.
Mhm. So a question here in the chat is from Alejandra, and she says she finds that because of the open-ended nature of messy play, most of our museum educators sometimes find it challenging to scaffold children's thoughts during the public programs that involve the mess or the open-endedness. Do you have any specific resources that our staff could that could help our staff with this in particular? Helping to scaffold, like the conversation and the thoughts and so forth. Because also, you know, a lot of our museum educators, you know, are younger college kids or high school kids who have just graduated. So they don't have, you know, the years of study that, you know, the four of you have. So any tips to help, you know, guide or be present with the children during a messy play, as opposed to just, you know, sitting and letting them just do. Gisela.
When I was a student in my occupational therapy program, there was part time used to have this whole, it was like a lesson planning. It was on Profectum. I don't know if it's still free, but at the time it was. It was Profectum DIR floor time. And it really, at least as a student, taught me how child-led play is, what the beginning of it is. And it was basically a basis for child-led play. And there was programming that was for parents, there was for students, which was the one I did, and there was also for educators, I believe. That was, I want to say 2-3 years ago. I don't know if it's still available, if it's still free, but it was a great resource for me at the time to introduce me to floor time and child-led play.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank
Yeah,
you.
I would say, you know, really, the question, I'm not sure what the goal was of the scaffolding, so I don't know if I'll be answering it in a helpful way. But one of the things that we talk about with adults and for parents to do during play is to what we call reflect what the child's doing. So again, it doesn't have to be this, oh, I'm going to say this exact thing and it's going to work to, you know, move my child to this place, but really following the child verbally, just like you're allowing them to play, that you're following them verbally of, you know, like reflecting what they're feeling. It looks like you're having a really exciting time with that. Looks like you're frustrated with that. Looks like that you're finding that to be really hard, or you decided to mix the blue and the green, or you decided to pour it all over here. So we use a lot of those kind of reflection responses with that. And I was trying to think of a resource that would be available. There are therapy resources, but I don't know if those would be helpful. Jesse might have some, if you don't know. But I have this sounds so awful, but anyway, I have a book coming out, Playful Education, that comes out in December, and it does have all of these kind of responses that you would give to children that might be helpful with that.
Yeah, because I definitely think, you know, how do we engage as adults, right? We're not leading it. We're not saying play this, do that. How do we engage? What, like you just said, reflective responses, what you're noticing in what's happening, is really just a perfect, very handy tool for people while they're playing with the child. Jesse, you were going to say something?
I was gonna say, I agree with Dee. I'm not really sure because they are more therapeutic like trainings, but I'm not sure if there's like a handout necessarily for it. I know there are like some maybe handouts for like, you could look, I don't want, it's like filial therapy, or, you know, the child-centered parent therapy. But it's essentially the same responses of how to just show that you're present without doing the activity with your child necessarily, which is exactly what Dee said. Is it's almost like you're sports commentating in a way. Not every single thing that they're doing, but you can be noticing, you know, you're painting over there, you're moving the water from that side to this side, and then noticing some feelings. And it just shows, again, if you think about children are communicating through behavior, it just shows that you're listening to them and that they're feeling heard through their behaviors. So maybe, you know, check out Dee's book that she mentioned. Maybe that'll be a great resource that's in there. So I don't know exactly, but we can always look to and see if there's some type of step-by-step examples of reflections or something that we could send you all also.
Yeah, that would be great. What's your thought on parallel play? So whilst the child is playing, if they're not necessarily engaging with you, the adult sitting there playing with the materials themselves.
I can go ahead and start too.
Yeah,
but,
go for it. Yeah.
I would say, so I've done that before, especially with some older clients possibly. And I don't think, in my experience, I think it's worked out pretty well. And I always still do that reflective processing on the side. So even though typically with the children that maybe don't like as much of my reflections or don't need as much of the reflections, I may be engaging in, drawing whatever we're drawing on the, thing over here, but I'm always still paying attention to them because I want them to know that I'm still present with them and I'm not just in on my own project. But I think, from a museum or a parent perspective, I think it could be fun to engage together or maybe even work on the same project together. And, it's an attachment and bonding activity. But I still think throwing in those reflections every once in a while so they notice that you're still noticing them, that you're not just kind of doing your own thing near them, but you're still part of, the experience in general.
Sure. Gisela, I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say exactly what D Ray said. I feel like narrating is such a great way to not only let the child know you're there with them, but to also bring awareness to what they're doing. So kind of like how she mentioned, you mix these two colors and it turned green. So right there, you're bringing that awareness that when you mix two colors, it's turning two different colors by just narrating what they're doing. So if all else fails and you don't know what to do, narrating is it's the way to go. It really allows them to know you're there with them and that it brings awareness to what they're doing.
That's great. I like it, like you're narrating the story of the play or the sports commentating. They're great little ways to keep the engagement and just to remind, to be present, right? And that's what it's really about when you're creating these play moments is as an educator or a parent, a grown-up, just to be present with the child. A couple of quick questions just before we wrap up that I wanted to make sure that we covered. Messy play, is it important for older ages or is it mainly just sort of early childhood?
I think it's important for everybody, right? Like, I think it's like for adults and children and like, I think not even just, somebody was talking about before about how do adults feel about play and how we feel about messy play that, it brings up our childhood. So a lot of times we are freaked out about it, but sometimes it's kind of really fun for us. So us being involved in it but certainly, all the way through childhood, even adolescence, you can see people have emotional reaction to being messy. And so it's always going to be some kind of prompt for growth, I think. So I think it's great across the lifespan. Great.
And then a question that was pre-registered is that at home with 2 3-year-olds. So it was basically homeschooling the 2 little ones. And how often should they incorporate messy play? Gisela.
I would say as often as you're comfortable with. I feel like I wouldn't tell you a certain number because you might not be comfortable with that number. It might be too much or too little for your specific case. So really, there's no number to how often you should engage in messy play. It's really up to what you're comfortable with and what your child is comfortable with.
Yeah, great. Excellent. Is there anything else before we wrap up that we've missed or that you have been dying to tell our people here today? I do want to add, while you may be thinking of a final thought, that any resources or little tidbits that we received here in today's panel will go out to everybody. We will email, we'll collate everything, including the handout, that resource that Dee has referenced. will go out to everybody in a document via email within a week or so that you have something concrete to walk away from this panel discussion with as well. So any final thoughts or final questions from our people out in Zoom land? Yes, Jessie.
I would just say, I'm just really encouraged by the number of people here and the fact that there's so many adults out there that are really supporting play for children, because it's just really just important. That's their job. That's what they do. That's who they're supposed to be. And so I think it's great seeing more and more adults and museums and parents and everybody that's here that is really supporting children and how they probably should be supported at, through the lifespan, like Dee was mentioning. But so thanks for everybody being here, and I was really honored to be a part of it.
Yeah, I just want to say ditto, because just the fact that y'all held this at the Miami Museum held this is so encouraging, that everybody sees it. Oh no, this is important, and that this is the natural way that children are. And I think our biggest job then is to try and market it, right? Try and get other people on board of this is important, and this is the way children grow in all ways. So yeah, I think it's really exciting that y'all even did this and that people came.
Well, I think it's important, right, to know like how to do it, and especially what are the benefits, right? Sometimes children's museums can get a rap, that it's like, oh, it's just an indoor playground, and it's, maybe we are, maybe we're not, but there's so much more with our programming and with like being a place to play safely. Is so important, because like you just said, Jessie just saying, like, it's a kid's job to play. So let's just let them play and create these moments for engagement and learning and just being a kid, right? I think that was something somebody said earlier about the social emotional side of things, right? And how it's just important for us as adults to help facilitate open-endedly, this kind of play, and this messy play in particular. So we definitely, on behalf of Miami Children's Museum, appreciate all our panelists being here today. Thank you to everybody also out there in the Zoom world for participating and asking questions and putting forth your ideas as well. This has been a really wonderful discussion, and look out in your emails for all the tips and resources that were covered in today's session. So thank you so much for everybody for coming, and stay tuned. We will keep everybody updated for our next quarterly conversation in a quarter's time. Thank you everybody for joining us. Take care.